I did my project on Catherine the Great of Russia, and the essential question I attempted to answer was which social group benefited the most from Catherine the Great's rule. There were three main social classes under Catherine's rule. The lowest class was composed of serfs and the poor, the middle class was peasants and merchants, and the wealthy and government officials were the nobility. Catherine the Great was seen as a strong ruler overall in history because she expanded the Russian Empire immensely after her husband Peter failed to do so. She pushed Russia all the way into Central Europe, affirming Russia as a major power. She was well educated overall, skilled in both life skills and politics, and knew many languages fluently. She practiced the enlightened disposed, meaning her main goal was to have the government serving the people. She sought to bring reform for many issues in the fields of education, social, and political problems. She easily gained popularity because of her ability to adapt to the Russian lifestyle quickly, and her subjects were very intrigued to see her rule. Catherine gave the lower class her support, and she disapproved of serfdom as a whole and proposed various reforms as to how to combat this to her Senate. She encouraged many of these serfs and poor subjects to get an education by providing schools and other resources. She also proposed ways to end hunger, disease, and illiteracy. She even started an organization for translating books into Russian for those who couldn't read in any other languages. Catherine gave the middle class respect for their public opinion, which was a luxury many subjects in other areas did not have. She took land taken by her husband and distributed it among the nobility, the people, and the church, giving some people a second chance of life. Among this class, she encouraged mental health as much as physical. She encouraged women to get an education and especially favored religious tolerance among this class. Catherine showered the nobility with her love because she relied on them for everything. They basically did her job for her in the forms of reforms and political issues. Because of this, she showered them with the same riches she showered herself in, consisting of luxurious living spaces, beautiful art everywhere, and she assured their privileges. She also shared her love of learning with the nobility while gaining what she wanted by introducing them to the idea of westernization, exposing them to her favorite philosophies, and exposing them to new types of government. Lastly, she discouraged flaunting their wealth to maintain her and their images. The downside for the two lower classes was many of her reforms were only propositions. In the case of serfdom, the power of the lords was strengthened because she put down a serf and peasant revolt. She set up schools but did not make them easily accessible, putting the wealthy and children of nobles at an advantage. She idealized women being treated as equals, but didn't put anything into action, making the gap between classes continue to increase. She was overcome by her own lust and greed, and her inaction to reform is very closely associated with her image. Riots often erupted while she was in rule, and the lower classes were very seldom at peace. Contrary, overall, Catherine did little that affected the nobility negatively. She was spooked by the French revolt happening so close to her land, so she kept the nobility closer to her. She saw them as a threat to her rule and moved many of them into her palace. She also passed many foreign affairs responsibilities onto her government. She relied too heavily on the Senate to create and pass the affairs. In conclusion, the two lowest classes gained very little under the rule of Catherine, and the harm she brought upon them far outweighed the little help she provided. On the other hand, the nobility under Catherine's rule lived lives of lavish and wealth. They gained far more than they lost under her rule, making the nobles the class that benefited the most from Catherine's rule.